Hello, hi there. How are you? Wanted to welcome you to another edition of Sharp Does Math. Today we're going to be talking about adding mixed numbers. As you can see, the mixed number has a whole number and a fraction. So we're going to be working on adding mixed numbers together. All right. So if you watch the video on how to add unlike fractions, fractions with different numbers in the denominator, this is going to be a little bit easier for you. If you're not sure how to add those fractions with unlike denominators, you're going to have an extra step here, okay? So what I've told you in the past is that I really like taking my fractions or mixed numbers, and instead of writing them horizontally, I like writing them vertically. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, and I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out to you. So I'm going to take my 3 3/8, and I'm going to put that down here. So we have 4 1/3 plus 3 3/8. So I'm just going to write that a little bit differently, and here's why. Okay? When we're adding fractions, just like if you were going to add whole numbers, let's say I was going to add something like 723 plus 418. Okay? You start with the smallest place value. We don't start over here by adding our hundreds. Okay, we start over here by adding the ones together first. Okay, so when you're adding whole numbers, you add your ones first. When you're adding mixed numbers, you need to add your fractions first. Okay, you don't want to add the whole number and then worry about the fractions. Get those fractions taken care of. All right, so ignore the 4 and the 3 for now. I mean, you can kind of look at it like this: 1/3 plus 3/8, and just do that first. And here's what we have to do. We have to find a common denominator with 3 and 8, okay? We use multiples to do that. So for those of you who saw the previous videos, you know you could list out your multiples, and as soon as you have one in common, that's what you're going to use. So for 3, if I did my math facts, I'm just going to say them out loud. So 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. And you keep going. Eventually you get to the point where 3 times 8 is 24. And 8 times 3 is 24. So that's going to be our new fraction. So over here, I'm going to put a new fraction with 24 in the denominator. And I'm doing that for both. Okay? And then I'm going to multiply. So 8 times 3 gives me that 24. And if I'm multiplying by 3 here in the denominator, I have to multiply by 3 in the numerator. So 8 times 3, 3 times 3 is 9. Right up here, 3 times 8 gives me 24. So I'm going to multiply by 8, and 1 times 8 is 8. And now I have like fractions. I have fractions with the same denominator. So now I can add here. So 8 plus 9 is 17. Our 24 stays the same. All right? Now, it's really simple to go, done. I'm done, 17/24. When we add mixed numbers, you got to remember to go back and look at your whole numbers. Okay, so we have our fraction taken care of now. Now we just need to take 4 and 3 and add those together. So 4 plus 3 is 7. So my answer is 7 and 17/24, just like that. Okay? And that's it. Always check your fraction to make sure it can't be simplified any further. For instance, on 17/24, the only way to get to 17 is 1 times 17, and 17 does not work with 24. Therefore, you are in simplest form. The only number left is 1. Okay? So I'm going to show it to you again, and then I'm going to show you another way where you might have an improper fraction, and I'll show you what to do with that as well. Right? So I'll do another simple one here. So one thing I like to do is ask students, when's your birthday? And then I put it up here, and then it really gets them involved in the classroom. So When were you born? Oh, you were born February 1st of 2006? Oh, okay, so there you go. All right, and then I'm gonna add that to, let's go 3, and I'm gonna use, what should I use here? How about 3 and 3/4? We'll do that, okay? So again, first thing, I look at my denominator and I see I don't have the same number here, so I need to make it the same. So knowing my math facts, I know that I can get to 12 with both 6 and 4. So I'm going to put a 12 in the denominator. And I know 4 times 3 gives me that 12. And since I'm multiplying by 3, 3 times 3 gives me 9. Now up here, 6 times 2 gives me 12. And I'm going to multiply here. 1 times 2 gives me 2. Now I have like fractions, so I can put those together. 2 plus 9 is 11/12. Can't be simplified. And then the last step, you go back and you look at these whole numbers. 2 plus 3 is 5. So we have 5 and 11/12. All right? So that's adding mixed numbers without having to adjust for an improper fraction. So now I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, this is something you might run across probably pretty often, depending on what kind of problems you have. So I'm going to give you something like, let's go 7 3/4, and we're going to add, let's go 2 5/8. Okay, so first things first, denominator not the same. We need to make it the same. I know I can leave this 8 alone, and I could multiply by 2 up here, and I can get 6/8. Here, if I just leave it alone, that's the same as multiplying by 1, and that would keep it at 5/8. All right? So when I add these together now that I have the same denominator, I end up with 11/8. Okay? And that's what we call improper. Okay? That's an improper fraction. The numerator is larger than the denominator. That cannot happen. We need to change that. Okay? So in order to do that, there's a couple different ways. I know a lot of students have gone, well, why don't you just subtract 8 from 11 and you can do it that way? And I tell them, sometimes you might end up with 40/8 or 43/8 or something like that. And I think this kind of takes that away. So when I look at a fraction, I kind of read it like 11 divided by 8. That line is just simply meaning divided by. So I'm going to change that to a division problem. 11 divided by 8, right? And I know, let me get rid of this so it's not right next to it. I know 8 can go into 11 one time only. 8 times 2 is 16, and 16 is more than 11, so that doesn't work. So 8 goes into 11 once. 1 times 8 is 8. I subtract. 11 minus 8 is 3. Okay, so this is what happened. When we added these, we got 11/8. 11 divided by 8 gives you all this work. And here's how you take that work and put it into a mixed number, right? Start at the top. That's going to be your whole number, all right? And then just like a clock goes around, you're going to go around the problem. So 1 3/8, just like that. So let's see if I can move this up a little bit. So when I look at this, I now have 1 3/8. Okay, 1 3/8. And a lot of times, again, you go, all right, done. Okay, but all you've taken care of is just the fraction. That's it. This is all you've done, 3/4 plus 5/8. That's it. Okay, so once you get to this point, you have to remember to go back and you got to look at your whole numbers over here. Okay, so if I take 7 plus 2, I know that's 9. And I have 1 down here already. So 9 plus 1 is 10. So I'm just going to take this, and that's going to become 10 and 3/8. Okay, 10 and 3/8. All right, so I hope you learned something new. Remember, you can always go back, watch these videos, pause it where you need to, follow it step by step. Okay, and next time we're going to do subtracting mixed numbers. Okay, all the work's going to be exactly the same, except for we're just subtracting instead of adding. All right, so hope you enjoyed this episode of Sharp Does Math. Hope you learned something, and I will see you next time. Peace.